we have some exciting news. You may have already heard that Mission Bell has recently become a part of the USA Millwork family of companies. And that means that we are one of 5 companies that USA Millwork owns across the United States. So we're the West Coast, and in addition to us, we've got Freelance Millwork in Denver, O'Keefe that handles the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, HPS in the DC metro area, and then Cabinets by Design in Atlanta. So this is really new and exciting and scary in a way, right? Because we've been in business for 60 years, and so this is a new venture for us. The exciting part is that Mission Bell is really the dominant company of all of them. We represent more than half of the total business of USA Millwork, and the idea is that with the ability to work across the United States, it's going to help us to have more capacity, right? Because right now there's so many projects, there's so much work, and so being able to share some of that work with some of the other sister companies is going to enable us to provide millwork for more projects. We've invested a lot in software and in processes, and we're going to be able to leverage that across the whole family of companies, so that's great. Certainly the supply chain, you know, with volume buying anything you can get, you can negotiate better pricing. So we are looking forward to doing that, as well as just staffing and planning for growth and all of that kind of stuff. So it's brand new, just announced right before Christmas. And so you are the first people to hear in person that this has happened. And so we're in the process of getting to know each other and working out all of those details. More to come, but we just wanted you to know and be excited with us.
Quick question, the 50% position, is that based on revenue or volume?
Both, actually, but revenue is the most important number, right?
Yeah, it just seems to me it's probably a little skewed, because whatever you
things cost more here? Yeah.
Okay.
That's certainly true. The other thing that's kind of cool to know is that our CEO is now the president of USA Millwork, and our CFO is now the CFO of USA Millwork. So not only are we financially linked, but our leadership team is continuing to be the leaders in the new group of companies.
Speaking to personnel too, the Mission Bell staff basically doubled the USA Millwork staff when we went on board with them. So those 4 companies combined had about the same number of people working for them as Mission Bell had.
Yeah.
Just kind of put it all in perspective.
So it's all the same. Nothing's going to change. You're not going to see, Brock and I are still here. We've got the same team, throughout the company. And we're just hoping to be a wonderful influence.
What, you're not moving to St. Paul, Minnesota?
Well, I do have my favorite aunt there, but I don't think that I'll probably move to St. Paul.
At least in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. So over the years, we've done more than $6 million of millwork projects that have been designed by your firm. We hope to continue to grow that, and I couldn't help but notice on your website, as on ours, that the Heising Simons projects have been some of our most favorite. I mean, they just photograph so beautifully and really leverage the Trans-Bay Douglas fir material in such a beautiful way. The curve on this wall is amazing. It doesn't photograph, I think, as well as actually when you've been there. Has anybody seen it in person?
I was just there this morning.
It's super cool.
That was our project.
Yes, it's super cool.
Yeah, we love it. That one shows off the Trans-Bay wood better than any other project we've ever
Yeah.
done.
We were really excited when we found that material because it melded so well with the mission statement.
Yes.
And the time that separated the first phase from the second phase and being able to get the look the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously get a little bit nervous about it because you really never know how it's going to go. But it couldn't turn out better. So everyone was really excited about it.
A beautiful design. So here's what we plan to be walking through in our time today. We're going to have brief introductions, talk a little bit about design assist and pre-construction, talk just briefly about functional millwork and how to specify veneer. We've got a few slides on reclaimed wood and sustainability. We're going to talk a little bit about how we're using technology to deliver for you. It says Q&A at the end, and don't hold questions, right? This is for you. And so if you have a question or a comment, it makes it more interesting and relevant to everyone else that's in the room. So please speak up. It's a brief overview video.
company that was formed by a man who had 4 sons, and over 55 years, that's been the soul of the company. I joined it because I felt it was a family business, much larger than a normal family business, but nevertheless, it was there, the soul was there.
We don't manufacture a product and have a catalog that we sell from. We build what architects dream up and put on paper. Every project is unique because of that.
Mission Bell has been in Santa Clara County for its entire history. We really see ourselves in the midst of a significant evolution from being a wood millworking firm that uses technology to really seeing ourselves as a technology firm that happens to work with wood. We're located in a center of technology right at the south end of the Silicon Valley. We have a customer base which is very technology savvy and yet really cares about the environment. Mission Bell is uniquely positioned to satisfy both of those desires of our clients because we have a growing expertise in the area of reclaimed wood and how to take repurposed materials that have a tremendous history and interest, then apply those in a way that's responsive to the look that the architect and the client are trying to achieve.
You know, to have a mill worker who comes to the table with that technology and that knowledge, it adds a lot of value and it really helps the design team complete the process more efficiently.
I worked with Mission Bell on the DPR San Francisco office, and we knew the look that we wanted, so Mission Bell was able to do a mock-up for us, and that just put everyone at ease because it was spot on what we were imagining.
We have some of the finest craftsmen in the business who are able to do work which is of exceptional quality, they can do it quickly and efficiently.
I've been machining for quite a few years, and I kind of look at it as creating a puzzle. You know, I machine the holes and everything that fits together to pass on to the next guy, and just to see it built and come out correct, I just take pride in that.
As a Mission Bell employee, I've had the chance to work with folks that have been here 20 and 30 years. They're regarded as the most skilled people in this particular field. They have put the company in a position of, quite honestly, being the best. Because they're the best at what they do. It's not a matter of just being the biggest. I think they're the best. And it's because of the people that work here.
We'll have to update the video soon too.
Yeah, we will.
I realized that.
So Mission Bell loves to get involved early with pre-construction and design assist, integrated project delivery, and that kind of thing, as well as we fabricate all of the stuff that we get from you, designs from you. We have our own delivery team, our own installation team, and we also source reclaimed wood with stories. We've been working with reclaimed wood for about 5 or 6 years now, and we've learned a lot. And so just think of us as a consultant that can advise you when you're looking for something and make recommendations about millwork details or even help you track down the wood that is going to align with story like we were able to do with the Heising assignments. So one of the roles I have is customer success. And so if you think of marketing as communicating who we are, where we add value, that kind of thing, customer success is really listening to our partners and hearing how are we doing, what's important to you, and then taking that information back to our senior management team so that we can make adjustments to our business so that you're getting what you need. So now is your opportunity to tell me what is important. When you think of millwork to Holly Peach and Snyder, what kinds of things should we be focusing on? What are your priorities?
No to low VOCs.
Mm-hmm.
Sustainability, whatever aspects you might have with FFC or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Also, AIA national, state, and local are all looking at a new spreadsheet. AIA Code Top 10 for awards, and that spreadsheet includes a lot of metrics. And I
haven't seen that.
I've gone in quite as far as I will at some point, but I suspect parts of that are to do with materials.
Right.
And so we'll be interested in those metrics too.
Yeah. Well, that's something we need to research on. I'm not familiar with that. Are you, Brock?
No, does it pertain to like sustainability?
Yeah, it's called a super spreadsheet right now. It has a bunch of names.
Okay.
But if I remember, or you can.
Yeah, I'll ask you.
That's a trend we've seen with a lot of our end clients.
Mm-hmm.
you know, a very large search engine that you might use all the time. I don't want to say any names,
Mhm.
but they have a lot of things built in where, you know, they have a red list of materials that they just won't let you use on site. So it's kind of interesting that a national governing body is kind of moving into the same space there. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It keeps everybody accountable and responsible.
Yeah. Then what Lead is looking at, of course, now is the raw materials and where they come from and all that sort of stuff, and knowing those answers is helpful.
That'll also be a challenge for us that we'll have to think about too when we're working with the family of companies within USA Millwork. Because if we're having materials built in Atlanta and the job sites in California, that'll be a big consideration.
Well, and we'll have centralized purchasing though too. So they'll have access to more information, be tracking and holding that information so that it's more easily shared when that's necessary.
Thanks for mentioning.
Yeah, those are good things.
So it might be that it has to be made here.
Because of, yes, distance and stuff like that, right? Anything else when you're thinking about millwork and you're thinking about who you'd like to have perform or build the designs that you've come up with?
I have a more generic comment, and it doesn't specifically, I believe, on any of our projects have ever applied to Mission Bell, but on bigger projects, let's say a 250,000 square foot medical office building.
Yeah.
Installation. Getting installers to keep up with the schedule, and it seems like every time we do a large scale project, and of course you're at the end, and everybody's anxious.
Yeah.
And then when there are not enough installers available to meet the schedule, and then that lags behind, witness this on so many projects.
Yeah.
And then invariably the general contractor puts pressure on the millwork trade, and then sometimes installers are just brought in that are, I don't know whether they're just hired per diem or what, but seems to me like anything, you build an excellent quality product and it needs the same level of attention and installation. You can't just pull an installer, a laborer, and have them install it and get the same level of attention to the details. So, like I said, this is not, I don't know that we've ever experienced that with Mission Bell, but it has been an issue on many projects.
So we just need Mission Bell to match anybody else's price out there.
There you go.
They get the job, so that it gets done right.
You got it.
So matching price and then pricing matters, huh?
Well, unfortunately, you know.
It
Well,
usually
this
does,
day and
right?
age.
Yeah. Price always matters, right? I mean, even clients that have very deep pockets, no, price is always important, and we have to work extra hard to make sure that we're competitive. Mission Bell isn't known as being the least expensive option, but we have to.
Not most expensive either.
Nope.
No.
And we work hard to make sure, you'll see later on in our presentation how we're really trying to leverage technology as much as we can to help us do the things that robots or machines can do more quickly and efficiently, and really leverage the talent of our craftsmen to do what they do best and do that cost effectively. Yeah.
So you've already mentioned it a couple of times, but the design assist function is very important to me. That you can tell us the best way to actually build something that we've modeled in SketchUp.
Right.
The technology that's going to work best for it. And for me, it's also important to have a knowledgeable advisor in wood types. That
Yes.
can, give me options to select from, because I'm not a wood expert. So it's very important.
Expert in everything else in the world.
Not wood.
Yeah.
I can tell pine from Doug fir, but.
Come on in. Well, we know that as architects and designers, you have to know a lot about a broad range of things, and the rules are always changing, and there's a lot to know. We want you to think of us as your millwork specialists, You know, we have a much narrower span of focus, and it still feels like a lot of things to know, but we want to be the experts and your advisors to help you be successful when it comes to wood types or reclaimed wood or details and technology and how we can leverage what has been effective in the past and how we can best meet your expectations and the expectations of your clients.
Yeah, Sharon and I were having a really similar conversation to what you were just saying there. You know, we know a lot about plastic laminate and, you know, veneer and reclaimed wood and solid wood. We're not a sales rep for these companies, so we can kind of come in with a blind eye and say, like, yeah, this is the best product for you, and not try and, you know, push it on you, so to speak. So it's kind of nice to have a partner like that. I don't know if it exists in other industries as well, but, you know, that's what we want to be. We want to be here for you and, you know, be a resource.
Yeah, it would be great to meet with you early on when we have the design concept. It's still loose. We know basically where we're headed with the design. We may not even have a material yet, but if we could review that with you from the beginning and say, this is what we're going for, these are the features that are important to our client, these are the sustainability features that we want, and then you can help us with the species and with the way it's put together and how we can kind of value engineer before we start.
Right.
Yeah.
We love that.
Yeah, even just a napkin sketch, you know, it doesn't have to be a 3D model SketchUp thing or anything like that. You know, we have 60 years, I don't have 60 years of experience, but as a company, you know, we have 60 years of projects we can look back on and say, yeah, you know, we did something really similar to that. Here's a couple things to consider, and then you guys run with it, you know.
For sure.
We love that. It's like, that makes our day, so.
Is there anything else? No? So we've been asking, you have something else?
Well, I do appreciate the fact that Fish and Bell, for one, owns up to their mistakes.
Yeah, we're not perfect. No.
And you had a project that we worked on from the beginning with you guys, and
Yeah.
installed it. It didn't come out very well.
Sorry.
So within a week, it was redone and reinstalled, and
Good.
still working to this day, so.
What project was that? Do you remember the name of it?
It was, Palo Alto Medical Foundation infusion in Palo Alto, all the walls and such. It was basically redone,
Wow.
a lot of it, so.
Was it installation or just materials were wrong? Or?
You know, it all needed to be scribed to the floors, and it was all built,
Okay.
you know, kind of stock sizes, and
Yeah.
it didn't all fit, and so
Yeah.
owned up to it.
Yeah.
So the shoe didn't quite fit.
Made it work.
Yeah.
Found it right.
Well, I'm glad to hear that we made it right.
But, you know, appreciate that back. And that,
Yeah, because certainly we're a company that's made of a lot of people, and sometimes we goof, right? And our goal, of course, is never to do that, but our desire is to make sure that in the end the project is successful and that we are a partner that you can depend on.
We've actually made one or two mistakes in our history as well.
No!
You have? Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Mark hasn't.
Yeah,
No,
Mark
but
has.
other people. Yeah.
The rest of the room.
A few of us have.
Yes.
I have one question for you
Yeah.
out of curiosity. To what level you even, you know, it used to be back in the day we would do a lot of detailing on casework, and then came to the conclusion it was, you know how to build a piece of casework way better than we do, that we would draw all these things, and shop drawings would come back and be the way that it should be done, the way you build it. So typically for the drawings you see from architects, what level is casework and things like that drawn? I mean, what do you really like to see or need to see versus maybe what we think we'd like to draw?
We get into that in pretty good detail in the next
Few slides, you
10
were just
minutes.
perfectly leading in.
Yeah, great lead in. You read our minds. You must have seen this before. But we don't need a lot from you. We'll just leave it at that for now, and then we'll get into some more detail.
So we've asked this question in previous presentations of architects and general contractors, and there's a lot of similarity in what some of the things that you have said and what other people have shared as being important. Schedule is super important. It seems like any more project schedules are compressed, and we need to make reliable commitments to our customers to hit that schedule. Communication, there's so much detail. Come on in.
Sure, this is my wood guru
Excellent.
David Register.
He has a proud spot on the wall just outside my office. We have a Heising Simons picture, and he every time he wants royalties because of all the time.
Sign autograph.
Yes.
For the term life.
Yes. Welcome. Glad you could come. So we know communication is super important. There's so many different details and things change in the process of a project, and so we need to be responsive when you have questions, and we need to be able to go back and forth and make recommendations. And so know that it is a priority for us when we uncover a potential thing that could jeopardize the quality or the deadline of a project, to come to you, the general contractor, and say, we're concerned, and this is what we think, come up with a suggestion for what will help remedy that. So know that communication is a high value for us. Price, we've talked about that. Price always matters. Quality, in the end, really, the quality of the millwork represents everyone who's involved in the project. Whether it's the architect or the general contractor or the actual company, right? The client. When people come into their space, rarely do they say, wow, what great HVAC you have in this. This is awesome, Who did the electrical? They don't. They make the determination oftentimes on the finishes. And so, Mission Bell wants to represent you well. And then the last thing is trust, right? And hopefully, as you've shared, over the decades we've done business together, we trust one another, and you have confidence in our desire and our ability to be able to deliver for you. So, customer success. This is a picture of Brock and some architects, and the three things that, when we think of customer success, that are most important to us is, number one, we want you to be successful, and we want to be easy to do business with, and ideally we want to create relationships, because people work with people, right? And so we're looking for that, and that is really our desire and focus when we think about customer success.
That's a shot of a shop tour, which we always like to drop the
Yes,
hints.
it's been a while since Holly Peterson Snyder's had people come to the shop, so if that's something you're interested in doing, we love doing that. And it's a lot of fun, and we have a lot of new things in the shop too. So if it's been a couple years since you've been, then you'll see a lot of new things.
Yeah, within the last year and a half, the finishing department's all new. It's really cool.
Yeah, super cool. So one of the ways we're working to develop relationships is that we have project teams that are led by project executives that are cross-functional. So that's been a couple of years we've been doing that, and we found that it's just a much better way to flow the information from beginning to end. It's better for our team to feel connected to you and your project, and it is better for the project in the end. All of the information is much more easily transitioned, and so all of these folks are co-located close to one another, where they can just roll over in their chair and ask a question and not have to be in it's easy to communicate, and they're working together over and over again. We are turfed to general contractors, so that means we've got two different teams. As an architect, you may work with either of those two teams. We've got a whole staff of folks. This is one of the newer roles that we have developed in the last year or so at Mission Bell. Our pre-construction managers are trying to get ahead of the process to make sure that, because we know deadlines are tight and conditions are changeable, we, as soon as we land a significant project, have a handoff, and then the pre-construction manager will go out on the job site, introduce himself to the general contractor, and really get the lay of the land. Talk about the flow of the project and discuss those parts of the millwork that we can anticipate could potentially be tricky, right? And maybe problematic, and try and anticipate and work those things through. But it's been a great way for us to really, I think, make a big difference in making sure that we hit schedules.
Yeah, they're kind of like our special forces right now. We deploy these guys on complex projects. They all have decades of experience in the industry. They've worked in the field. They've worked as a project manager, as an engineer. They know inside and out what's going on. So really valuable group of gentlemen at Mission Bell.
So projects are always a collaborative effort, and we think it's always good to kind of highlight what that process looks like from the millwork point of view. Not probably new information, but of course moving from left to right, we produce the shop drawings and then review those, do field measurements, listing, fabrication, delivery, and then install. But essentially, as we move more and more to the right, the more and more difficult it is for us to have changes. And so we want to have decisions made as early as possible so that we don't find ourselves far enough down the line where we have to give up your spot in the construction schedule and order different materials and start all over again, right? So this is super important. We know that as designers, you get inspired and ideas come and conditions change, and you know, we want to work with you. We're not saying no, you can't do that, but it comes at a price and is challenging for us. Any questions about that? No? Everybody knows that, huh? So the traditional flow of a project has been that the owner selects the architect, the contractor selects the mill worker, and there's this communication that goes back and forth. And unfortunately, it's not very efficient. And so we are, as much as possible, looking to do more and more design assist, where we're involved early on so we can make recommendations so that the project it comes out the very best that it can be. And we have a better opportunity really to influence and impact the millwork and how it comes together, quality of that. Any questions or thoughts about integrated project delivery? I see you've got it on your website here, Design Build and IPD. So sounds like we're in a similar.
Yeah, I think we've been doing it with you guys for years.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Good deal.
Short list on who the contractor's going to be, and as soon as they're on board,
yeah,
got a short list. I'm trying to get you guys on board to do pre-con and help us through that early process.
It helps everybody do what they do best. So design assist can be handled in a variety of different ways. It's really handled on a case-by-case basis. We could be handled contract. It can be embedded in the proposal, or it can be strictly a time and materials thing. But if you're working on a project that you think really would benefit from that, you know, give us a call and we'll talk you through it and figure out what the best way to work out the paperwork behind the scenes.
These all have connotations too of a more formal contract. I mean, if it's just off the cuff, you know, recommendations and things like that, if you need anything, you can reach out to Sharon or I. You know, if we don't know the answer, we'll find a project engineer or PM and rope somebody in that does. So it doesn't have to be very formal.
The next series of pictures are of a project we did a couple of years ago in San Francisco for an eyeglass manufacturing retail company that is based in Asia that was coming to the United States, and this was their flagship store. And so we worked closely with them. It was kind of challenging with the time difference between Asia and San Francisco, lots of late nights and early mornings and stuff like that, but we did mock-ups, and the end picture.
Oh, that's Jim's.
Yes, it is. You know it. Yeah. The end product looks so much like the vision that the architectural team had developed in the beginning. It's very exciting to see that come together and be a part of it. So talking.
Did you do the lighting as well?
You know, we initially they had wanted us to, but we didn't end up doing that.
Did you build those fixtures, or were they real off-the-shelf fixtures?
We built all of the millwork and the tables. The light fixtures. No, we did not build the light fixtures. No, it was originally in our scope, and they went a different direction, so we didn't end up doing that. The light fixtures. They are beautiful. So I'll let you take over and start talking about some standard lead times and.
Yeah, so I mean, in design assist arrangements, we have an opportunity to kind of address issues with certain materials that are going to cause problems as far as lead times are concerned. Like we were talking about earlier, you know, we want to act as a consultant for, you know, any of the materials that we work with all the time. So standard lead time items, you know, your solid surfaces, we subcontract that out. But generally speaking, if it's a normal kind of material, it's a standard lead time item. You know, the majority of solid woods that we order from local vendors, plastic laminates that you see in a lot of standard production casework. A lot of the veneer products that we'll produce in-house, those are usually standard lead time items, unless it's an exotic veneer. It has to come from, you know, somewhere around the world. A lot of metal work too, usually a pretty quick turnaround from our metal subs. Mission Bell reclaimed wood is a nice standard lead time item. Some other reclaimed woods on the market may not be. So we always try and offer an alternative if a Mission Bell reclaimed wood might fit the bill, as opposed to something from another vendor. The long lead time items, I'm sure you recognize a lot of these. I'm sure sure you've seen, you know, problems with lead time on some of your projects for them. You know, the ones that we see that are kind of unique, that aren't brands that you might be familiar with, upholstery, so we sub out upholstery. Sometimes they can kind of cause a little bit of a delay. Like I said, reclaimed wood from other vendors, specialty solid surfaces, stone, and then really extravagant custom metal stuff is, you know, sometimes a little bit of an issue. So,
Do you work much with Octolam, plastic laminate Octolam?
I don't think we do, to be
I don't
honest.
recognize it.
I haven't seen it.
We use that company a lot.
That's in the first Isaac Simons, but it didn't make it into the second because of the.
Okay. Do you see it
It's out of Canada.
a lot on like healthcare projects?
Well,
Or
we
just in
use
general?
it, we've been using it a lot on a lot of projects.
Okay. I haven't seen samples of it sitting around the office.
It doesn't sound
Um,
familiar to me, but that doesn't mean that we haven't done projects with it.
Yeah,
I'll look for
exactly.
that.
Yeah, we had to
Octolam.
change the finishes for Isaac Simons on the millwork because
At
of
the last
lead time
minute.
stuff.
What were they expecting for a lead time for the
Well, I
project?
don't know if it was an issue that the contractor didn't get it going in time, or if it was just not ordered in time, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We had to change it. That was, and it had further ramifications. The new replacement was darker, and that meant that there wasn't enough light in the galley, so we had to put new fixtures in the galley.
Oh,
that kind
yeah,
of
one
stuff.
thing is.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you
Like it.
specify it over others, or is it like
It has
thicker?
a certain appearance that we like.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, when I first found it at Yukon, they were way ahead of their time.
Okay.
Since that time, the other manufacturers have kind of caught up, and look more, I would say, are looking more similar, but still, they have some unique looks and textures that the others don't have.
Yeah.
You said Octolam, O-C-T-O-L-A-M? Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Awesome, we'll look into that.
But yeah, that's kind of the, you know, the general stuff that we'll look at really early on in a design system arrangement. Now, to answer your question about drawings and how much information you need included in those. So we want to talk about functional millwork. When we say functional millwork, we're talking basically standard production cabinets, you know, square boxes, rectangular boxes, and that sort of stuff. You know, we want to kind of collaborate before the construction drawings are issued, so we can look at it and, you know, confirm it's buildable, the most efficient way, you know, if we can offer any value, engineering advice, and that sort of stuff. So we like to get involved early on, you know, even functional, simple millwork stuff. When you're designing it, basically there's three things that you want to do. You want to specify the grade for the AWI standards. Usually anything we're working on is customer premium grade. We don't see economy grade specified too frequently. You want to specify your materials, and then basic drawings. Basic drawings are basically elevation and plan. We don't really need anything else. We don't need
Vertical and horizontal control.
Exactly, yeah. We don't need sections, we don't need isometric drawings, none of that sort of stuff. So, you know, in your spec, you'll just write custom grade for plastic laminate cabinets, you know, premium grade for solid plastic laminate tops or solid surface tops, what have you. Don't need any of the detailed drawings, you know, basically simple elevation, plan, and we're good to go off of that. We're gonna jump right into veneer. A lot of the, you know, production casework, we see custom veneer specified for it. So we're one of, I think, 2 manufacturers in the California West Coast region that does our own veneer layup in-house. So if you've been to our shop in the past, you've probably seen the whole veneer department. It's a really cool process. Gives us complete control over everything that goes through the shop. When you're speccing veneer, you want to specify the species, of course, the cut, and the matching within the panels. So lately we've seen a ton of walnut and white oak. I don't know if you guys have seen, you know, trends in the veneer industry, anything jumping out at you lately that's new or exciting, but it seems to be trending towards more of a rustic look as opposed to the more formal, you know, vertical grain book match look of the past. So we see a lot of walnut and oak specified. As far as sawing veneer, this is stuff you guys all probably know. You know, we've got plain cut, quarter cut, rift cut, those are kind of synonymous with one another. And then you've got rotary cut as well. We don't really do much with rotary cut veneers. You see those spec'd on kind of economy wood doors and things like that. So the next thing you want to consider is matching. So you'll see book matching, slip matching, and then like I said, we see a lot of random matching coming up lately. You can also add end matching to any of those sort of things, and we have examples to show you what they look like. You know, book matching is your traditional kind of veneer layout where you're basically flipping every other leaf from the sequence stack of veneer leaves. It gives you this kind of mirror image effect, and it creates some unique details with certain species. So we always like to point out, you know, if you're specifying, you know, one type of veneer that's going to have a really contrasting tone from leaf to leaf, you know, we'll let you know that so you can pass that on to your client. No surprises in the end.
So do you-
The one wood that's been new to me in the last few years is ipe. Is that not used as a veneer?
We do see it as veneer. You see it a lot for like exterior cladding or decking or things like that, where it's specified as a solid wood. But it is, it's a really dense kind of, it's full of oils and tannins, so it's great for exterior use.
Yeah.
But we have seen it specified as veneer. The one thing about it, it tends to shift colors a lot. So once you install it, you might get some surprises with that. So we like to mention that if you're going to spec it.
So do you prefer to source your own wood? Like if we come to you with our conceptual design and we, in our library, we have these big, beautiful wood samples, like we have many linear feet of these samples.
Mm-hmm.
So we start from there. So if we come to you and we say, okay, this is what we want it to be, do you source from that exact wood sample, or do you source somewhere else and you say, okay, we're going to match it?
It depends what's available. So like the veneer layup that I'm talking about that we do in-house, we're not cutting veneers in-house. So we're getting those from a variety of vendors. So
okay,
if
so
it's,
we can come to you with this vendor and you can just take it and go.
we can order it from them.
The challenge sometimes is that what you have is a type sample and potentially, and the log is gone.
Yeah.
It's no longer available, and so it's better to, if you have something in mind, to give us a type sample and then have us look for something that would meet the characteristics that you're looking for, and sometimes we can do a lot better.
Yeah, so we can just use it as a starting point.
As a starting point, and we can provide you with type samples as well as actual samples once you're in a project and working with you.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we have a gentleman that works with us in our veneer department, Bruce Wolf. He's been with the company like 30 years. He knows everybody in the veneer game, so he's a really great ally to have on your side if you're really tracking down, a specific look.
His nickname is Flitch.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. So, slip matching. This is basically taking the sequence stack of veneer leaves and slipping them off, as if you're kind of slipping cards off the top of a deck. This gives you a little bit more of a different pattern. It gives you kind of a repetitive, stripy pattern. Again, certain species are going to display differently, so we always make sure we point out any issues you might run into. And then random matching, which Bruce always says is the hardest thing to actually accomplish, because you have to consciously mix everything up and not make it look intentional. So he kind of, doesn't love random matching as much as the others. But it's a really great look. It gives us the ability to kind of incorporate, a more rustic sort of look with the control that we have over veneer panels. So, and then end matching. Like I said, you can apply this to any other type of matching, basically for really tall elevations or long horizontal elevations. So you can see here some taller elevations that have end matching in there. You can't really see it because of the resolution of the photo, but it is in there.
It's a little more obvious on that one.
Yeah, you can see your end matching here, but it's basically like opening the leaves up end to end to kind of create the continuity. And then the production of our veneer panels, it's all in-house, like I said. So there's basically 4 steps. We're going to source the proper material. Like I said, Bruce is our go-to guy. He knows everybody that there is to know for veneer. We're going to clip the individual leaves to size based on the shop drawings that we create. We're going to lay out everything and splice the leaves back together to create sheets, and then we're going to press it onto a substrate. And I made a video. If you're familiar with the How It's Made videos on like PBS, I tried to mimic that. So you're the first people to see this video. I produced this the other day.
This is the premiere.
I'm not a video producer, but
oops,
and it's over.
Just missed the golden
I know, that was
globe.
fast, huh?
First the log is loaded on the tree.
Exactly that. I tried. I didn't have a great
Delivered
microphone.
to the factory.
It's not going.
It's not starting, huh?
There we go, music and everything.
Ensure total reliability and allow complete control over the most complex veneer jobs. Mission Bell has operated an in-house veneer department since 2003. lines indicate the panel and leaf widths, and the guillotine is used to make perfectly parallel cuts at this intended width. Clippings are often utilized to create edge banding and other small details, but typically we'll see about a 4-to-1 waste ratio when creating veneer products. After clipping, the leaves are spliced together to create larger sheets. These are glued edge to edge using a special machine here in our shop. Here you'll see our operator adding multiple sheets that have already been glued together to create one large 4x8 sheet that will be glued to an MDF substrate. The machine uses a combination of pressure, heat, and glue to join the multiple veneer leaves edge to edge. As this sheet passes through the machine, you'll notice some tape on the edge. This is to hold the veneers together where the glue hasn't formed a tight bond yet. It's actually a special type of tape that needs to be sanded off prior to finishing the sheet.
This is the part that mesmerizes everyone when they're in the shop.
The lamp department utilizes a variety of materials such as plywood and MDF to create substrate that the veneers will be glued to. The rollers are filled with glue and will apply glue to both the top and bottom of the substrate. A veneer backer sheet is utilized to balance each panel to ensure that it does not warp or twist once installed. The heated press is used to press veneer sheets onto the substrate to ensure a tight bond for years to come. A variety of finishes can be sprayed in our state-of-the-art finishing department. Here you see our super peachy finishing robot spraying a clear catalyzed lacquer finish on some panels. This fully automated finishing booth ensures top quality, consistent products. No matter the species, you can be sure Mission Bell has you covered for any veneer needs.
So that's the veneer manufacturing process. It's really cool. You get a glimpse of our super peachy finishing robot in there too. That's part of the whole new finishing department that we have in the shop. Really awesome thing to kind of come witness in person. So.
What happens to all the scraps?
The scraps get reused on edge banding and things like that. The really small scraps, though, we put them in the wood waste pile. Like I said in the video, it's about a 4-to-1 ratio of waste to actually what gets used on the projects. A lot of it also gets stacked up in kind of in our reserve stacks. So if something goes wrong on the project, we have stuff to pull from.
Is the waste the 4 or the 1?
The 4.
Oh, wow.
What? The waste is the 4?
Yeah. So when we're doing a 100 square foot wall panel, we're going to order like 400 to 500 square feet of material to cover that. And that's, when we're clipping ends off, when we're clipping to width, you're losing a little bit here and a little bit there, and it really adds up. And then also, if there's a sequence of veneer leaves and a knot kind of appears on one of them, there's going to be a whole bunch of leaves that are going to get culled out because of that defect. So it's really, it's a painstaking process, and it takes a lot of attention to detail. And when we sub this kind of stuff out to a company to do, veneer layup, we have no control over that kind of stuff. So that's why we brought it in-house, and we keep it on lock.
So I'm still kind of confused because you said it goes into the edges and stuff, but.
Yeah, so if we have clippings from the edge of a veneer leaf that's wide enough to yield our edge banding for a particular piece, we'll use it for that sort of stuff.
I know, but maybe that's a third or a portion of one.
It's
4
just
to 1.
where
so
we
what
can
happens
use it.
to the rest of that stuff?
It either goes into, like I said, like a stack of veneers that we haven't clipped or used, or it just gets thrown in the wood waste bin. So.
And the wood waste bin goes where?
That's a great question. With veneer, because it's solid wood, it could be recycled in some way, shape, or form. We have basically 2 dust collection systems right now. We have one brand new modern system that's hooked up to all our machines. Those machines process MDF and plywood, which has a lot of glues and resins and binders in it. So that stuff can't be recycled. Whereas the other dust collection system is hooked up to our mill, which where we're milling mostly solid wood. So we can recycle that. We create these compressed pellets of sawdust, and then those get utilized. I'm not really sure how, but
they look like they'd
we
be
sell
perfect
them
for
to
a stove or something like that. They're really cool looking, but I'm not sure how they're.
But yeah, there is inherently a lot of waste with it. That said, if you kind of think about milling flooring or something like that, where you're cutting solid wood planks down, if we have 25 veneer leaves. It's basically the thickness of a solid wood plank. So
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, I'm just wondering, you know,
Yeah,
what happens
yeah,
to,
where's it
where's
going?
that,
Yeah.
if these bricks are made, that's cool, are they sold for, you know, to someone for fuel, are they fueling your plant, you know, that sort of.
Yeah, we try and, you know, minimize our impact as far as waste is concerned, but you know, there is a good bit of waste with the veneer process.
So moving on to reclaimed wood.
Reclaimed wood, a more sustainable topic. Let's.
Yeah.
So this shows our first ever source of reclaimed wood. It was NASA's Moffett Field Hangar 1. The cladding of this skeleton was pulled off because it had lead paint on it. So when they were pulling this material off, we've come to find out what was considered construction grade redwood at the time is really beautiful, ultra tight grain, mostly hardwood. So we got our hands on this stuff. We brought in a whole bunch. They mitigated the lead paint, and it was all removed, planed off. And we did projects with this for a while, a couple of years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have any of it left, but it's just one of the stories that we've kind of had come through. So reclaimed wood, we do it, obviously, it's environmentally responsible. It's a look that people are kind of going for. Has a lot of superior characteristics to new growth material. So you'll see tighter grain, you know, denser wood, that sort of thing. Qualifies for LEED FSC certifications. So usually it's a local materials credit and materials reuse credit for LEED that you can get, because we source most of our material from kind of the area. The challenge is there's no standards, of course. So, you know, when you're ordering reclaimed wood, which we know from other companies, you never really quite know what you're going to get. Again, that's why we wanted control over it, so we brought it in-house. It does necessitate increased communication. You're going to have to send more samples, and we understand that. You know, regulating the moisture content and any bugs or critters that might be living in the wood is taken care of by heat treating it. And the FSC certification, it always presents a challenge because it actually has to be documented when it's leaving the site that it comes from with photographs, and then in transit to our location and milling and storage and all that sort of stuff to maintain chain of custody. So those are the challenges that we've seen. You know, a couple of those stories are Martini and Prouty redwood. There's some samples of it here. You can smell the inside. So this is basically the full thickness of these planks when we got them. You know, we mill it up just to kind of show you the different texture and character that you might find. But if you smell the inside face, it smells like a nice red Cabernet type of wine. So you can pass that around. It's a really cool material, but we've used this in a lot of projects. This is a recent one that we did. This is an exterior patio that utilized the Martini Prouty redwood. You can actually see kind of the gradient where the red wine face, which would be the top face on this board, is going to be darker red, and then the outer face of the tank is a lighter tone where the wine hasn't saturated through. This is a really beautiful project. They left this unfinished, so it's going to turn gray over time and weather and age. So it'll be really interesting to see how it goes.
Don't be snorting those samples.
Yeah. Scratching samples.
And if you ever go to our reclaimed wood warehouse, which is in Gilroy, the minute you open the door, it just blasts you in the face with. It smells like a winery. It's amazing.
So if we use something like this interior, would we expect that it's going to be, that it'll stay looking like that over time?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's inside, you know, we can seal it with a clear finish. You could leave it unfinished by all accounts if it's not, you know, something you'd be touching. But we have that actually. We remodeled our lobby in Morgan Hill, and we used a lot of the Martini Prouty redwood. And it's milled a little further down than this, so it's a little lighter. It's not that super dark, you know, burgundy red. But yeah, it'll maintain that color.
Even if you don't seal it?
Yeah, until it's exposed to the. I mean, you might get a little bit of color change just from sunlight hitting it. But
So it's UV that changes the color.
It'll change it, yeah, to some
Artificial
extent.
lighting's not going to affect it?
No, it won't change it.
Thank you.
Because it, you have to plane it to get the curve on the stage, is that what you do?
Yeah, so they're kind of like, I don't know what the shape is, but it has a little bit of a bevel on either side. So we'll plane that to create a square plank, and then we'll mill it into, if we want to do a 3/4 inch board or whatever it might be. So that last job you saw, these are really kind of complex shapes. So they have curves that run along the length of the boards, and then there's also kind of like a scallop taken out to give you like a kind of a curved seat back. So these were actually created by gluing up multiple planks and then putting them on our CNC to get these compound curves. So it was a really interesting project. It was a lot of work to get those shapes. But y'all know this one quite well, Transbay Terminal Fur. This is what it looked like coming into our shop. I don't know if you've ever seen photos of it before. You know, we milled it, but these are the pilings that existed under the Transbay Terminal for.
Oh, we should get that photo.
Yeah.
Pretty surprised it has yet, yeah,
Yeah.
really, from this to
Yeah.
Heising Simons, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Can we get
wow.
those back
Sure,
on the next
sure,
one?
sure,
Oh,
yeah, we'll send
absolutely.
you a PDF of
And
those.
that's what the material looked like when we first came upon it. Again, this is before my time, so I've just heard the story that got passed down. When we laid eyes on this, we found out it's a bunch of junk. We don't need any of it. Somebody grabbed a piece of, you know, like an end cut out of the dumpster, took it back to the shop and milled it, and that's when we discovered the crazy colorations that you get on the inside. So it was a real stroke of luck that we didn't just walk past this and leave it for someone else. But yeah, you all know this project.
Yeah,
quite
your
well.
project's one of our
Like I
favorites.
said, it shows that material better than anything we've ever done. So we really love it. The Hollywood Bowl, this was another great story. This is the old bleacher seating at the Hollywood Bowl Amphitheater in Los Angeles. So all the board, well, not all the boards, just the bottoms, they would have the seat numbers etched in them, so you could see, you know, the seat numbers. It's kind of funny. We have material left of this, but it's all the seat bases, so they don't have the numbers in them. So it all got picked over. Everyone wanted the beautiful, like, you know,
Great
details.
patina,
Yeah, but this is a house in Venice. This apparently this gentleman's a musician that actually played a set at the Hollywood Bowl in his career, and this is his home. So some more rustic stuff. This is our Kentucky horse fence. We have some samples kicking around. We can really selectively plane things, so you know the material looks really rustic and gray and black to start. If we skip planing, it reveals something beautiful, bright oak beneath, and then if we plane it smooth, it retains some of the black paint in those little nooks and crannies, but also brightens it up, gives you a little bit more of a formal look. So
Does it smell like a horse?
it can
Scratches
actually.
it, let us know, huh?
Yeah, it you know, certain times you'll get planks that have things stuck to them. So we have a little video about technology where we talk
The
about
normal
different
lead time of building a
trends in the
building
industry.
6 years ago was one thing, and today it is shortened by 2/3. For that to happen, everybody has to be on board very, very quickly. You have to be completely in control as to how we design, how we agree on what we're trying to do together, and how we deliver.
Our team is able to talk with the client, the architect, and the general contractor to understand the look and feel, and then make recommendations about materials, talk about constructability.
Architecturals are produced at a much faster rate electronically, and because they've taken away paper, those electronic documents are rapidly created,
This is real time.
modified.
Technology is incredibly important,
and being innovative in that technology is important, but communication and collaboration are probably the most important things to us at Mission Bell.
We probably have more tablets with our carpenters than most companies do with their PDs and engineers.
In our shop drawings, we have embedded in there, in these two-dimensional drawings, all the 3D manufacturing information. We're able to see how all those components are going to go together and build it right virtually before it even goes out to the shop.
Our robotic material handling system selects the right pieces of material for the job, brings them over to a labeling table where a label is applied in anticipation of where the board is going to be cut. As it moves from the saw where the material is cut up to the edge bander to the machining unit and routers and dowel insertion throughout the process, that barcode is going to direct the various stations in the manufacturing chain exactly what operation to perform.
Back when I started, I used manual machines. If you look around, you can see that everything is computerized now. Basically, I'm not having to get a tape out and lay things out anymore. It's already pre-laid out, so it goes a lot faster than it used to.
It really allows all of the partners involved, whether it be Mission Bell employees or our customers, to be on the same page, to be able to deliver our products on time and be able to install a beautiful product that is really what our customer is looking for.
Do you think cross-laminated timbers gonna affect your work, sort of a craze for what now is a bit of an upcoming trend? Is that something you're all gonna get into, do you think, or?
It'll be interesting to see how it gets incorporated in millwork. We just landed a job that's a mass timber building. Construction schedule's not for another, 2 years or something like that. So I haven't really looked at the drawings on it or anything yet. So it'll be interesting to see if they incorporate, the exposed timbers and have them kind of interface with our millwork, or if it's just going to be working around that sort of stuff. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But it's our first true full-on mass timber ground up job. So
Yeah, we'll see.
So to speak to some of the technology that we use, Bluebeam Studio is a tool that we've had a lot of luck with, where we can collaborate with the GC, the architect, and our engineer, project manager, kind of all in the same digital room, so they can talk real time. So I'm sure you've all used Bluebeam Studio, some of the other software out there too, that we see on a kind of need-by-need basis. But the lessons we've learned, consulting with us early, it's going to get us ahead of the game. Bluebeam Studio and other software, it's going to let us work together quicker and more efficiently. And then actually understanding the whole process involved with, manufacturing the casework and millwork. If you come in for a shop tour and kind of see it firsthand, it really goes a long way, kind of understanding the process. So, again, the value of the shop tour. We dropped these hints throughout the conversation, but yeah, that's kind of.
Like 6 months ago.
No, it was
A couple
more than
years
that.
ago.
Well, I had to miss that one time.
Oh, perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool case study where we've used a couple different, technology ideas. This was a project for another tech client who might have you, where we did this after the fact because we realized it was a great opportunity to use a 3D printer. So we bought one and then taught ourselves how to use it and printed this elevation of this incredibly complex, trellis type assembly. We're modeling it, we're creating these drawings for our shop drawings, so why not go the extra step and actually create a physical sample? So that 3D print that you saw, like I said, was done after the fact, but to have that, look at it, have our installers be able to look at it and understand what's going on with this, it would have went a really long way.
What material did you use for the 3D print?
The 3D print, it's a PLA. I'm not really sure what
It's a plastic base.
Yeah, it's a plastic nylon sort of thing. We've actually gotten like a bamboo impregnated material. So it's still plastic, but it has a very small amount of bamboo in it, and it creates a color and texture almost like wood. So we messed around with that. This little miniature reception desk here, this is the wood PLA. So it kind of has like a little wood, maybe cardboard sort of look to it, if you will. This is your standard, black and white PLA filaments. But I always joke that our 3D printer has become a miniature reception desk maker at this point. But you get these really interesting kind of crazy forms. And a lot of times, we'll show up to a design meeting with a print like this, and the architect will say, "Oh my gosh, I haven't actually seen my design yet. This is great. I need to change this, this, and this." And we can pull these off. Like I said, we're creating the shop drawings. They're going to have that model information built in. So it's, for us to print this, it's basically just turning the printer on and letting it go overnight. Then we have the model. So.
What's the wood in the arch that ultimately was used?
I don't know what that was. That was before my time. I should know. It's probably a veneered MDF.
It's veneer.
Probably.
Who's the architect?
Charity
I don't remember.
I hope it wasn't.
Someone else, not us.
No.
I was saying, I hope it wasn't HPS. Can we look up?
Yeah. It's difficult when we have projects with NDAs. Sometimes they let us share
we have the
information,
same issue
sometimes they
with
don't.
them.
So I'm sorry, I don't remember.
This was another one. This is a project in the city. This is a 350 Bush. This is a guard desk. There's a little miniature model of it sitting there. This is basically, these were the drawings we got from the architect. We translated those into our shop drawings. Again, like I said, has all the 3D modeling information built in. When we had to send this out to a subcontractor because it's a solid surface. So we really had to think about how can we create these flat sheets so the subcontractor can cut them out of thermoform corian, and then they'd be applied to this structure that we're going to create in our shop. So we got this program. It's called Solid 3D Tech. Basically allowed us to explode the model and flatten these sheets out into, it's basically a tapered shape to accommodate that compound curve. Sent that out to our subcontractor. and then applied the sheets in the field. So this was in our shop where we created a die wall.
We saw that when we were there.
Yeah,
Oh, really? So this was your last tour?
yeah, cool.
I think we saw that, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was like 2013, right?
No,
Oh, it
since
was
then.
more recent.
No.
Was it?
No, I think it's probably 17.
17?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Oh.
that sounds about right.
Must be a different project I'm thinking of. But you can see how they applied the thermoform corian to that structure in the field.
Is that the only way you can get a boat shape like that with a solid surface?
With these compound curves, probably yes. If it was just a kind of an oval shape, you could do like a curved core with a laminate or a veneer over it to get that curve. But those compound curves are really tough. I've talked to Bruce before about doing any sort of like, if you could do a wood veneer. I don't think it's possible, so.
That's what we were trying to do on
Right, on the
the
boat, yeah.
Yeah, actually,
We were trying to do it on a recent project.
I got an email from someone, and
Right.
that's why I asked Bruce about it, and I said,
Yeah.
you know, we can't do it. We could
Yeah,
do the
because
oval shape.
The material that we're using is a woven wood veneer.
Manufacturing.
It's not a laminate, it's a panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're actually, you know, you're
We
shrinking
have to
that.
change the design.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To wicker.
the wicker boat.
Yeah.
That makes sense, I guess. You can weave that thing up. QBD is another tool that we use. This is kind of a more kind of basic tool just to visualize the models. It's great in the field. If you have a QBD app on your phone, you can scan that QR code. It'll pull up a 3D model. You can zoom in and turn it around and all that sort of stuff. So it just gives us an added an element. You know, if we want to share a model with an architect, we can say, download the QBD app, and here you go, and you can see it real time. The Superfici, the finishing robot, you saw a little bit of that in the video. This thing's amazing. It is creating some of the smoothest, silkiest, nicest finishes I've ever seen. Our conference table in our new lobby that we remodeled is finished by the Superfici. Every time I sit at the table, all I do is touch the surface, and I don't pay attention to anything that's going on in the meetings. It's a really amazing machine. It's all encapsulated, so there's an updraft, so it's actually pulling the vapor up away from the material. So when you're spraying, you don't have any overspray that falls back onto it. So you really get this like ultra slick, super smooth finish. We can spray anything in it. Usually it's a water-based conversion varnish that we're spraying on most of our projects. It's low VOC, easy to clean up. Not really any harmful waste or anything like that. But you can spray oils, you can spray, solid opaque paint, all that sort of stuff. So.
Who's making most of these machines? Like they had the Cooper, the thing is, are those all being made but in Europe or are they?
Yeah, I think most
They
of
used to all
our
be
equipment
made
are,
in Europe,
yeah,
but
the
they
Superfici is from Italy.
Yeah, Superfici's Italian.
CNC, I think, is German, isn't it?
I think so. The Sanders that we just got, the Costa Sanders, those are all Italian as well. Yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into the machinery that we bring in. Our dust collection system, we just had a new dust collection system installed. Took 3 months. The team of gentlemen that installed it came from Poland, so they were specialists in this crazy dust collection system that we had installed. And it was all designed for our shop specifically. So when you're in there, you'll be in our finishing department. There's these huge kind of cloth tubes that come overhead, and they're designed to introduce air back into the shop, and that was intentional to create pressure gradient throughout the shop. So it's designed to theoretically repel dust from the finishing area. So it's the most sensitive area to dust. So we wanted to design it suitably so it helps us in the long run. So they thought out everything. You can actually walk through the dust collection, like the main manifold that goes through the center of the shop. It's so
It's
big.
that big, yeah.
It's really incredible. There's a door on each end. If something gets jammed up, you can walk through there. It has fire suppression built in, so if something were to spark, it would immediately extinguish it in that location.
It's a good thing.
It is.
Yeah,
It's very
a good thing. No fires in that good.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot going on at Mission Bell.
More than
and,
dust collection.
Yeah, more than dust collection. And so we have a few little quiz questions for you. How many employees do you think Mission Bell had? This is just Mission Bell, not the
Twice
USA
as
Millwork.
many as the
Greater than 50%.
Using your math, yeah. Little algebra there, right? 325 employees are Mission Bell right now, and now we're double that, I think, as USA Millwork, closer to 700, I think, in some of the numbers I've seen. So how many projects would you guess that we are on the job site all at this today?
Just Mission Bell.
Just Mission Bell,
Not
right?
USA Miller.
Not USA Miller.
We have not updated the presentation.
Yes, we haven't.
Over the last 60 years?
No, just today that we're on the job site. What?
50.
Not quite that many. Partially it's because I think more and more we're doing some really huge projects, right? We're seeing many more $1 million plus millwork projects than we were a couple of years ago. So how many projects do you think are in the shop on a typical day moving through? And I've got a prize for the right answer for this one and our last question. So you could have your very own Mission Bell journal.
23.
120.
Okay, so we had
24.
look at that.
Oh, you got it.
Ooh.
So
I was gonna say 25.
Sharon got first.
Yeah, okay, Sharon. So do you like the blue or the? Right. Okay, and the last, the grand finale is.
We actually put the Price is Right clause in there, so you can't go one over the next guy. That's not fair.
So how many projects do you think Mission Bell is working on from beginning to end? So these would be ones that we'd be working with, pre-construction, design assist, all the way to we're taking care of finishing off the contract and taking care of the final billing, the whole kit and caboodle on
Right
a
now?
single day. Yeah.
120.
183.
75.
I said
200. They're the closest.
Thank you.
So we got a lot going on, and now that we're a part of the USA Miller family of companies, even more. But our focus is really on making you successful. That's the most important thing. We want to craft unmatched experiences so that your preference is to work with Mission Bell when you have millwork needs. So thank you very much. I know we've gone over. You've been very patient.
Now we're going to go to Q&A, quips and anecdotes. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, have you?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Nathan,
coming. I
apples and
appreciate it.
smells like-
Oh, yeah. If you do it hard,
Do you use Sturtreads?
We have in projects done Sturtreads, yes.
Thanks for
There's
joining
not a
us.
special
Appreciate
line
it.
of
Sorry we were a
Sturtreads,
little
just
longer.
custom-
We custom make
whatever
them.
needs to be done.
That's my understanding, yes, they're all kind of custom. Yeah. You're working on a home project?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just trying to convert, what was a carpeted stairway.
To wood.
You're the
open.
first ones to hear about this.
Oh,
USA Miller.
great.
Need to figure out where to get stairways.
Yeah, no, I don't think,
I
are you
don't know
aware?
who carries them, who,
Brock, do you know if there are companies that actually carry stair treads? I think all of ours are made custom, right?
Like solid wood treads.
Yeah.
I don't know if they need to be solid or not.
Yeah.
Because you think about the 2 or 3 inch, I don't know if it's easier to be solid or just to have a half inch something on
Yeah.
MDF or something, I don't know.
Are you, is there a specific species that you're looking for, or are you just kind of?
Maybe redwood or walnut or cherry would be the
Ooh,
three, but I'm
maybe.
not sure cherry would hold up.
Well, redwood's really soft, so I wouldn't go
Yeah.
with redwood. Gosh, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, you could check with Aura Hardwoods. They have a retail component, and they deal in flooring, solid wood. If anybody has,
Aura.
yeah, they're in
Yeah.
San Jose, so they're close by.
AURA.
Yes.
They have locations in San Jose and Sacramento, and they're pretty
Regional,
regional.
yeah.
But I would check with them first, off the top of my head. So.
And then if need be, I could draw it, you could make it. I mean, it'd be a small job, I don't know if it's something you would do in the course of these days. I wouldn't blame you for not doing it.
You could at least find someone that might be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would make more sense to have, although, these days, I won't get into all the details and bore you, but these days, you can't have more than a 4-inch
All of the,
opening
yes.
there, so
For
if
safety.
the existing tread or the existing stringer that's in the middle, in this case of the stair, isn't set up, you might need a lip on it, so
Oh, yeah.
it might kind of have to be custom made. To
So it's
make
an
all
open
that.
stringer?
Well, I'm gonna make it an
That's what he
open
wants.
stringer.
Right now
Yeah,
it's carpet.
Yeah, you might have to
Now
do
it's
that
a
false
full-
front that
Yeah,
drops down.
exactly.
But yeah.
And I can't imagine anyone carries the exact perfect proportion to make that happen, so
Yeah.
you maybe need to get it made, I don't know.
Yeah, if you are you working? Is this your own house?
Yeah.
Do you have like a custom home builder working with you, or you didn't?
Not yet. I mean, I've had, it's a home in the Saratoga Hills, and we remodeled it once, but
Mhm.
this is kind of the next stage
Yeah.
of the remodel, if you will.
Typically, we don't do residential.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just more curious
But,
about
yeah.
who carries that kind of thing. And
Yeah, I would check with Aura. And then if you go into the realm of custom stuff, just find a
Craftsman.
design build
Yeah.
sort of guy.
yeah, they'll know where to get it.
Right.
I'm sure I'm not the first one.
No, I think it's a
hard
beautiful
with
idea.
shreds.
I know a great place, but it's in Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah. Probably won't work. But
Yeah.
Place I used to work at, we
Yeah.
did that kind of stuff all the time. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for investing your
thanks for
lunchtime
coming
with
in.
us.
Yeah,
Thanks for
appreciate
joining
it.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, we have great respect for your company, and together through the years, we've done a lot of great projects together, so.
Thank you.
I think the whole architectural community in this area is happy to have you guys around, I mean, there's been a lot of, great work, and then you got into reclaimed wood, that's been a really great thing for the whole area and whatnot, so.
Thank you.
A great asset to the area, I think.
Our focus is still going to be on the area for the foreseeable future too. So even though this acquisition takes place, we're still dedicated to the Bay Area.
Do you get most of your competition, you think, out of the Bay Area? Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
what you find is?
Mostly, although with the amount of activity we've had in projects in this area, there are out-of-area firms that, of course, are looking to
Of course.
get their portion of the business, which makes sense and keeps us all on our toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nice thing for us, we have the installation force, whereas a lot of these people coming in from out of state.
Well, also the relationships. too,
Yeah, the
get brought in
relationship.
early,
Right.
How much of your, we always try to get negotiated and on board early.
Everybody likes that
You know,
best.
I mean, you get the experts around the table, it's such a better way to do a job,
Yes.
but how much of your work is sort of negotiated up front versus having to bid?
I don't know how to estimate that.
Most of the bigger projects are these days.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everyone recognizes the value,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, we got to
And
do
the
it.
time frames,
Mhm,
they
right.
lock you guys in on delivery of something, which is good for you
Yes.
and good
Yeah.
for the project. It's
Absolutely.
good for us, frankly,
Yes.
We love it when somebody like you's on board and, as I ask that question, we have people detailing away on things that, it's like you don't need it. You're gonna do it the way that makes sense for you to build it, and somebody else might build it differently. It
Mhm.
might look the same, but the
Yeah.
interior might be different, so I think we as architects have to figure out
How far to go? right?
and how to use expertise, you guys
Yeah.
know more about wood than we'll ever know, so it's good to be able to take advantage of that, so.
Yeah, well, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks
for
We
coming
appreciate
in.
your
Appreciate
business.
it.
See ya. I wonder if
How long your battery lasts to?